Our agenda today, we're going to talk about the importance of reporting sustainable purchases and leadership through purchasing and how that can help lift our sector to a new level of transparency and help increase the purchase, sale, and production of sustainable coffee. We're going to then take a look at the snapshot report and how this report comes together and how you, roasters and retailers, can participate in bringing it alive and creating greater value through the process of sustainable purchase reporting. That will be delivered by Caroline. And then we're going to talk about data protection, and our colleague Andreas is going to go over concerns and opportunities to protect data, particularly in a pre-competitive reporting opportunity. And then we're going to talk about how you, roasters and retailers, can report. And we'll take questions and answers and move right to the nitty-gritty of how we do this together. To set the stage, let's talk a little bit about the importance of reporting. Many of you are on the call are members of the Global Platform, and so you know that the Global Coffee Platform is a unique membership association duly registered in Switzerland, devoted to the pre-competitive advancement of sustainability in the coffee sector. Our members span every segment of the value chain. We are dedicated to working together to understand each other's business challenges and developmental challenges and perspectives. And it includes not only members who are in the actual value chain, but also civil society, NGOs, donors, individuals, government, banks. We're all working together to try to lift the sector to a more successful and widespread adoption of sustainable coffee growing practices, purchasing practices, selling practices at scale. So we've been pretty busy in the Global Coffee Platform over the past year. Coronavirus has presented us all with tremendous challenges, but also opportunities to step back a little bit from all the frenetic traveling that we have been doing and examine how we can recombine and re-leverage efforts together to advance sustainability. And this has led to roaster and retailer reporting evolution in the Global Coffee Platform based upon the baseline coffee code, which is currently being revised and will be brought forward to you with a meeting. I think, Helka, you'll let us know when that meeting is going to be happening in a month or two. Essentially, these are converging lanes that we've been working on to lead to an enhanced report, building upon our previous year's report, which was the GCP Roaster and Retailer Reporting on Sustainable Coffee Purchases. You see the slide in front of you, and you can see the lovely waves that, catching the engagement of actors in all different segments of the value chain. Starting with good farming practices as outlined in the baseline coffee code of 10 to 12 unacceptable practices and specific environmental, social, and economic principles that we all would like to subscribe to. Then we have been working on the baseline equivalency mechanisms so that the original certification schemes that comprised equivalence to the baseline coffee code are being expanded to include private sourcing programs and private schemes that all agree to support these baseline sustainable principles in the baseline coffee code. And then we have engaged roasters and retailers to actually report on their purchases in a specific way so that we can develop, and here is the really exciting thing about this report, we can develop reporting around an aligned indicator that will allow us to measure our ongoing progress annually that will build upon a way that we can all show the sector how we are progressing to reach sustainable development goals and also help connect with our customers consuming sustainable coffee in a continuum that will then support the farming of sustainable coffee. So this is really a multi-stakeholder approach. It's pre-competitive. It's unlike any approach that we've seen. And it certainly builds on all the good work that's been done by private companies and all the good work that's been done with NGOs collaborating to bring out the biannual EVOS report. And we'd like to show you how it works, and we'd like to invite you to participate today. So I'm going to take my passing arm and I'm going to pass the ball across the ocean to my colleague, Caroline Glauvka, who is going to show you how this works. Caroline, welcome to the floor.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you for giving us that overview to understand better how roaster reporting is contributing to a sustainable, or is one way of supporting the advancement of coffee sustainability in the sector. Thank you. I'm going to take you now through a section to show you the value of the snapshot report, which is then really the essence or the end result of the reporting. And you see here, if you haven't seen already, to the right, the report we have put together for 2018. You ideally, or hopefully, we hope that you will participate in the roaster and retailer reporting. And I'd like to show you the visuals that we will create with the data that are being reported. So one of the visuals will be a pie chart showing in metric tons the total of sustainable coffee purchases and the conventional coffee that was purchased. And this figure you see here is an accumulation of the roasters who have been so bold and being transparent and showing their figures, which is Jacobs Douwe Egberts, Nestle, the Melita Group, Strauss Coffee, and Supra Cafe. So this is one of the pictures that will come out of the data that are being reported. The other emphasis this report has is trying to understand better the diversity of origin sourcing. So this is another chart that we have put together. It's showing only the top 10 countries of sustainable coffee purchases. You see here, Vietnam is the greatest, and then getting smaller to the bottom. This is really better to understand, really which countries are not so prominent and maybe should be targeted for more purchases, ideally. Breaking it down more, so I showed you some of the accumulated figures. Breaking it down more, these companies have then allowed, or that's the agreement for the snapshot, to show their exact share of their total coffee purchases, the share they have of sustainable coffee purchases. And you can see this here clearly stated in metric tons, and they're of the percentages respectively. And for the next reporting round, which will be on 2019 and 2020, there will be something new, which will be disaggregated information on sustainable coffee purchases by, I would say almost region. So this is a pure dummy example. There are no roasters, no retailers behind this, and the figures are not real, but to show you how this would look like. So the idea here again is to show the diversity of origins per region, and we have put Brazil and Vietnam together. This is because they have the largest share already of sustainable coffee and work quite efficient. But we also want to look at the other continents or sourcing areas: Africa, Asia, that's then excluding Vietnam, Latin America, excluding Brazil. And together then we would look at Brazil and Vietnam. Disclosing this would be voluntary. So it's up to the roaster or the retailer reporting to tell us if they would be ready to take leadership here and show the sector transparently, a little bit at least, how their sourcing patterns look like. If you've been, I think it was two weeks ago on the amazing webinar of the on the coffee barometer. It also resulted or asked for more transparency in the sector. Many people are talking about it and asking for it. Here's an opportunity really to show transparency. And I'm happy to, and was allowed by Nestle to mention that they will be ready to share their figures on this new chart you see here to the right, these visuals, by disclosing their sustainable coffee purchases by these countries, and then together Brazil and Vietnam. So yeah, an opportunity here to shine and bring forward more transparency in the sector. Looking at figures here of roasters and retailers is one thing, or their purchases rather. We totally understand that that is only one part of the puzzle contributing to sustainability. Roasters and retailers do much more that go beyond their purchasing practices. These are participating in initiatives, supporting programs, and doing really a lot of things. So in order to give credit to that as well, we have asked these participating roasters and retailers to share the essence of their coffee sustainability strategy in roughly 100 words. So if you would be reporting, we would be asking for that as well, so that it can be shown it's not only about reporting, there is much more behind coffee sustainability than sustainable purchases. So that's the essence of the snapshot report. I will hand over to my colleague Andreas now, who will tell you a little bit about those valuable data.
Thank you, Caroline. So I'm going to make it quick and short and as concise as possible. So we all know that the data that's being disclosed to us in this process is really, really sensitive. And as we are based in Europe, we also need to be aware of the sensitivity of personal data as well. So of course, we are taking various measures to protect your data. On the one hand side, your personal data as participant in this process. On the other hand side, of course, even more important, the sensitive data you're disclosing to us and that you agreed on, being disclosed even further in the public to a certain degree, as just presented by Caroline. So on an organizational perspective, we do have internal and external non-disclosure agreements. I think around at the moment there is one being circulated with some of the participants for approval and for alignment in terms of what is the content of this agreement. We have checked this also on a legal side, so we have like a legal backing on this with our agency. And of course, we do have internal data confidentiality agreements. This is within GCP as a company, means only authorized staff will be able to deal with this data for the processing. Yeah. GDPR compliant data processing is of course natural in the European Union, so we need to look into this as well. And we have measures in place to deal with that. Of course, it's a natural topic. And then, of course, data processing agreements, for example, with our software suppliers. So for those of you who are finally providing the data, typing in the data into our system, you can be assured that the software suppliers also maintaining this system for us or with us, they have data processing agreements in place with us. Yeah? Again, authorized access only goes also into this level. On the technical aspect, it's basically the same. Really natural, of course, is the encrypted data transfer. The system as such is really purpose-driven. It's a one-purpose system only for this particular process. That means the system for the reporting will only be accessible during the reporting phase, and afterwards it's going to be switched off, so it's not accessible, even public anymore. And this is also to protect your data in that sense. After that, we are going to, of course, process the data in respective BI systems, which are also restricted in terms of access. This is being encapsulated in a secure storage. And also there, for the analysis of the data, we will have a clear user access control system in place. That's it briefly, basically the measures we have in place to secure your data.
Thank you, Andreas. Yeah, very, very important to understand that your data are being kept safe and sound. Now we come to a part where I'd really like to show you a little bit how the process of the reporting will go, as this webinar or meeting is geared up or targeting roasters and retailers. I'd like to show you a little bit what's heading your way.
We call
So
this
the
how the
coffee
rubber
that is
meets
being
the road.
reported. Thank you, Mary. Exactly. Now it's to the stuff that would be heading your way to participate in the reporting. So first, which coffee can actually be reported on, and it's the following schemes that have been recognized already under the equivalence mechanism found to be equivalent with the baseline coffee code. And it's this voluntary sustainability standards with 4C, Fair Trade, Rainforest Alliance, and UTZ. And other sustainability programs from Brazil, Certifica Minas, and Nespresso's AAA, and Starbucks Cafe Practices. These were already allowed to be reported on in the 2018 snapshot. For the next reporting around 2019 and 20, I'm excited to welcome and have additional programs, which is OLAM's at source entry verified and at source plus, and from Ecom, the sustainability management services. So these will be included in the reporting, which is really great news. Additional programs are also under assessment currently, so there's a perspective. And also very good news, NKG Bloom has also been found equivalent and can be reported on, then not on this reporting round because it's 19 and 20, but then the one following on 2021, and KG Bloom will also be included. So fantastic to have these as well here. And of course, we're talking here, which we probably should be reminded of, about the baseline sustainability that the equivalence was on. And some of these programs and standards go even far beyond that. So these are the standards and programs that can be used for reporting. And now let's have a look at the part for the person who has to do the physical entry. It's very simple. You know, creating a login and a password, that's very familiar. And then you click on the year that you want to report on. And I'm awfully sorry, we are updating the system at the moment with 2020. So these are the old screenshots here that I'm using, but of course they will be updated. If you're ready to report on previous years as well, you're welcome to do that. It's not only on 2019 and 20, but previous years can be reported as well. The next one would be then where you choose the country and tick the box under which standard scheme it was, or program it was purchased, entering the amount of metric tons and then submitting, and you will also get an overview. You can edit in there to understand what the total reporting figure then was. So it's not rocket science, but of course you would have to have your data ready. That's probably the biggest work that is entailed in the reporting. And that is probably then you find here. So it starts off where we're now end of January. Where we are signing, Andreas has mentioned it, non-disclosure agreements with the roasters who are ready to report. They will get these agreements. And this is also, to be clear, on the data that we will not show. Yeah, so that's important. It's not only about protecting the data, but it's also ensuring that we agree on what data will be shown and what will not be shown. It's getting ready then. If we move in a traffic light system here, get ready, get set. Responsible person needs to be chosen to do the reporting, because for that person then a login will be created, and it's then continues into January, February with gathering the data on 2019 and 20, and then starting to report as I have just shown you. We also do a bilateral data check if needed. This would be happening with Andreas. And meanwhile, on the bottom, it says go, go, go. We will be asking you for that essence or summary of your sustainability strategy, as I have shown also before. And then of course, we need some time in April and May to convert these data into the visuals that I have shown you. And before we publish the sustainable coffee purchases, the snapshot report, we would be sharing that with all the reporting roasters and retailers before it goes into publishing. So this is pretty much the flow of the reporting and what it entails and what's needed and the timeline to that. So reporting would be getting ready right now. And then towards the end of February, we're opening the system, the tool where data can be reported then into. You're not alone. There's a support system, of course, who we will be ushering you through the process with the help of Andreas and Mary and myself. And we have also have a guide if you rather read than talk. There is a guidebook as well that informs on a step-by-step reporting. So that's available as well. Looking at the overview again of the timelines here, January, February, really preparing with, having a commitment by the roasters and retailers who are ready to report, and signing those non-disclosure agreements, defining a person who's responsible then for actually entering the data. It will be collecting that data, answering questions if there are any, and then sharing the coffee sustainability strategy, using March and April for the data entry, for the quality check, for a bilateral if needed, and then sharing the results before publishing. And then we come to the snapshot in May, June latest. So that's really the whole process of reporting. That's what it entails. As I said, going back one slide, you're not alone. We're supporting you if there are any questions. And with that, I'd like to hand back over to Mary.
Thank you, Caroline, and thank you, Andreas. What's really exciting about this reporting process is that it's building on the energy and the commitment throughout the sector to create a sustainable, thriving, sustainable coffee world for everyone in the sector. And this reporting opportunity provides a way for roasters and retailers to really take a leadership role in leading the industry forward to increase the ongoing commitments of their sustainable coffee purchasing in a way that's reflected, aligned around a transparent indicator. And that indicator is sustainable coffee purchases. So this gives us something to work on together, to build together, and forms the platform to expand the indicators in the future. We're starting with 1, sustainable purchases, but there's a framework of 15. I think it's a very interesting and important opportunity for us all to build this together to align, to work, to bring pre-competitive information to the sector that will help us make better business decisions. So this is a big call to action. It's a big opportunity to show leadership through sustainable purchasing. And it is a place where the roaster retailer segment can really work together to make a difference. So we're calling all roasters and retailers, whether you're a GCP member, a partner, a prospective GCP member, a signatory to the ICO declaration, to please join us and to sign up for the 2019-2020 Roaster and Retailer Sustainable Purchase Reporting. And Claire, I think you've got the information. You're going to pop it up in the chat box so that people can make sure they copy and download that link now. And thank you for that. And Caroline, back to you.
Mary, it's actually our section, the next one, which is your questions, please. So we have opened the chat box, but you are also most welcome to raise your hand if there are any questions. Yeah, please, any questions you might have as a roaster or retailer here, on the reporting, on the visuals, whatever springs to your mind, you're invited now to post your questions either in the chat or raise your hand, and we will then call on you.
Yeah, and we certainly encourage you to please turn your cameras on, because this is a meeting and a discussion, and it's really helpful when we can all see each other.
Mm-hmm. So I'm taking, there's a question in the chat. Are there plans to publish the breakdown of sustainable purchases by program, for example, each certification or private program? What we are doing, this is not happening per roaster and retailer, but we are showing accumulated figures. There is another question. What systems do you have in place to prevent double counting? I think I'd like to hand this over to Andreas or even Helga.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Yeah, that's a really important question. We do also, we did wrap our heads around to ensure proper data quality. And so what we do is, especially now since we have these changes in the equivalence, we have some new systems there in place that need to be handled properly. And based on that, we actually changed the structure of the system. So the screenshots you've seen there that Caroline shared here on the screen, they are not up to date, as she also mentioned. The structure has changed slightly, so you can really properly distinguish between those different volumes out of those different schemes you want to report on. I hope that helps to answer your question.
Thank you very much, Andreas. I see we have a hand raised from Mark Furness from Veritas. Can we
Mary,
unmute
can
him?
I jump here and comment?
Hello, Helga. Please jump in.
Thank you.
This is Helga Buitrago.
Yes. To the previous question, in terms of if we're going to publish a breakdown, we may want to differentiate between the different assurance systems behind the schemes, as they are different. So that's something that we're looking into, and that's a bit of the aggregation that we may be offering in the snapshot. In terms of what do we want to do, how we're going to prevent double counting, of course, we're going to ask the roasters and retailers to give us the information on their purchases that they have. We know also, for example, that in terms of certification schemes, there's no system unified that actually ensures that only one bean has been actually sold as a particular sustainability scheme. But we're going to do, of course, an effort to triangulate information as far as that is available to be able to ensure that there's no double counting.
Thank you, Helga. And we have a hand raised from Mark Furness. Could someone unmute Mark?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, just to make the comment that we agreed that Veritas would make before the meeting. I think it was back in June that June last year that we were invited to take part in the beta testing of the equivalence mechanism, and it was certainly it was great to hear that the mechanism was looking beyond traditional certification, if you like, to to include other routes and other ways of on the path to sustainability. It has felt a little bit at times like trying to put a round peg of a little bit more of an innovative scheme into the square hole of the traditional mechanisms. But it just to make it clear that we are supporting the equivalence mechanism. We are currently being assessed under the mechanism, and we'd expect those results to be communicated before the end of February. So hopefully we can move forward then.
Thank you, Mark. We are all partners in trying to build an effective and meaningful system that brings more transparency to our ability to advance sustainable coffee development at scale. So here's another question coming up in the chat box. The question is, will the report show the benchmark for each scheme against the BCC? And I think I'd like to bowl that question to Helga.
Yes, and the answer is no. What we have now with the equivalence mechanism is we have done an assessment of each of these schemes against the criteria that are in the baseline coffee code, but also the operational criteria, which are the requirements on how that scheme is put into practice. And what the outcome is that we consider those schemes that have been mentioned in the presentation today as equivalent to the baseline coffee code. We don't do any assessment on how far they go beyond that, or if there are any other attributes. So what we want to do is like to have this baseline sustainability and a recognition that these schemes, at least they meet that level. All of them have different emphasis and go beyond in some aspects of the baseline coffee code.
Yeah, I think it helps to reemphasize that the baseline coffee code is a set of foundational principles and no-go practices for baseline sustainability. We can build on it, but we're rallying around this core shared set of principles that we believe as a sector and as industry participants developing it are really necessary for baseline sustainability support. So here is another interesting question in the chat box. We have the snapshot report, which is a snapshot, and everybody keep in mind it's also an annual snapshot, so it is showing annual progress and giving roasters and retailers the opportunity to really rally around together and show their progress in expanding sustainable purchases. And the question is, what about historical data and trends? And I think the question is meant to be in the context of, is that part of the snapshot report? I would just contribute that actually through the snapshot report, we're showing ongoing progress. So we have, sustainability, to borrow from Charles Dickens, sustainability past, present, and future. Helga, can you comment a little bit on if there are any plans to include historical data and trends in the report, or is it a forward-looking report?
I think the report looks at these 2 years that we are asking the information for. I think it's an interesting comment. We can have a look at it. I think the idea so far has been looking into what it is, the status, and of course you can go back to the previous one. This would be our second report, and then make some comparisons, even though they would not be fully comparable because we will have new schemes now that can be eligible for reporting. But it's a really good question, and then we'll think about it internally.
Yeah, Caroline, anything to add?
I'd like to add something to this, because we did have this consideration. We do have this consideration, but it also comes with a little bit of some basic requirements. So, for example, it needs at least the reporters participating last year also to participate this year, and then looking at trends and historical data. I mean, obviously, it's supposed to be a process that's being rolled out on a permanent basis, like a recurring reporting process that we are trying to establish here on a yearly basis. But it also needs a certain amount of participants and a certain amount of data over time to really come up with proper trends. So, for example, if you have one country being reported in one year, but not in the other year, what's the point in having a trend? So you don't have credible data in that sense. So we are considering this now and in future, and hopefully the more people we have, the more roasters we have supporting in this process, the better this data will look like in the end.
Yeah, those are important points. We want to be inclusive and credible, and really what we're trying to do here is make it real. So this sustainable coffee purchase reporting that we're developing is a dedicated, serious effort to make it real. I'm just looking, okay, thank you. The questioner says, thank you for the response. Thank you. I'm looking in the chat box. We don't have any more questions at the moment. We have about 5 minutes left in our time. We want to thank everyone for sharing this time with us today, and we want to encourage everyone to reach out to us. We are your support team. We welcome bilateral follow-up with you to do more of a deep dive into how your company can participate. We welcome you with open arms.
As I said, you're not alone. We're there to help you and guide you along. And it's not difficult. It has also been put into the chat box again to sign up.
Or find out more. All the information is there. Grab that link and give it a look and reach out to us, please. And we'll reach out to you.
With that, we'd like to thank you, Mary.
Thank you, everyone, for giving us this time today. We're engaged together in important work, and it's a tremendous privilege to be doing it. And we thank you for your time and your expertise and your input so we can build this together and build it well.